Hello everybody, and welcome to another Facebook Live lesson with me, Tita Wayne, from the Young Learner Program at CAM-ASEAN. Okay, so today we are going to do a little bit of grammar. Okay, grammar. Remember, grammar is all about how we put the words together in the sentence so that it makes sense and people understand what we are saying. Okay, so today we're going to look at types of grammar that we only put in front of nouns, but not all nouns. Okay, try to remember. I will remind you in a minute what a noun is. But before I remind you, try to see if you can remember yourself what is a noun. Okay, so these are words that we put in front of nouns, and they are the words a or a, an, and the. Okay, we don't always put them in front of nouns, but when we use them, they only go in front of nouns or adjectives. But adjectives are kind of like nouns anyway. Anyway, let's not get too confusing. Right, let's begin. Let's start over here. So we're looking at the words a or a. Okay, normally we would, when we speak, we say a. We don't say a. We don't say a pen. We say a pen, a pen. We don't say a mouse. We say a mouse. Okay, so let's begin. A, an, and the. Right, so these types of words, there's only three of them, a, an, and the, and we call them articles. Now, try not to get too confused, okay? Because sometimes when you learn English, some teachers they tell you that, oh, this is called this, and this is called the past participle, and this is called the present perfect, and this is called this, and it can be a little bit confusing. So don't worry too much if you can't remember that these are called articles, okay? It's not as important really to remember what they're called. What's more important is to remember what they do, why we use them, and what they do in the sentence. Okay, so if you can remember that they're called articles, but it's not important. Don't worry if you forget what they're called. Okay, and they have, what's happening here? They have okay, so you remember what nouns are, okay? So we use articles before most nouns. Nouns are names of things, okay? People, places, and things. Okay, Cambodia is a noun. Phnom Penh is a noun. Teacher is a noun. Pen, speaker, kitchen, apartment, sky, clouds, webcam, computer. They're all names of things, and they are different to verbs. Remember that verbs are actions, and we can change verbs, but we can't change nouns. Okay, so we use articles before most nouns, but not all nouns, okay? And they tell us, so the article a, an, or the, they tell us if the noun is known or not, okay? They can do different things as well, but in general, most of the time, we use different articles depending on if the noun is known or not. If we know which school we're talking about, if we know which piano we're talking about, if we know which chair, which boy we're talking about, then we need to use different articles, okay? Remember that a noun is a thing, a people, or a thing, a person, or people, or places. Right, okay. Now, before we move on, we need to look very quickly about vowels. Now, these letters here, A, E, I, O, U, if you didn't know already, these are very special letters in English. We call these letters vowels, okay? And they have a special, they are special letters because every word in English has at least one vowel. apart from the word rhythm. Rhythm. You can check on Google later. But the word rhythm, it doesn't have a vowel in it. Okay? But most other words, they have a vowel in them or a vowel sound. Okay? And vowel sounds these are vowels because we can make the sounds of these longer. Like if you look at the letter A, we can, when we say the letter A, we can make it sound like A, ah. The letter E, we can make it sound like E, eh. The letter I, we can make it sound like I, or sometimes E, okay? O, oo. The reason why these letters are important is because we can make them sound longer than the other letters. Can you imagine the letter B? Okay, ba, ba. You could say ba, but actually, if you did that, you would be saying B with the letter U. But it's the letter U that's making the long sound, not the letter B. Same as P. You could say P, but the sound, the long sound is the E sound, not the P sound. The P is a very short sound. You can't make it a long sound. The same as B. Okay, or C. The K. C is often a K sound. K, K, K. Very short sound. You could say K, but again, you're making the sound longer, which is a U, not a K. So all of the letters in English, they all have a very short sound. You can't make the sound longer apart from these special letters, A, E, I, O, U. That's why they're special. That's why they're called vowels. Okay, and why do we need to know this? Why is this important about a, an, and the? It's because when it comes to using a or an, we need to know whether the noun that comes after is a vowel sound or not a vowel sound. Okay, so we have some vowel sounds here. Egg, umbrella, elephant, orange, apple, octopus. Okay, they all begin with a vowel. So because they begin with a vowel, we would say an egg, an umbrella, an elephant, an orange, an apple, an octopus. Okay, but if the noun does not start with a vowel, like these, for example, phone, boy, shop, train, crab, plate, none of those start with a vowel or a vowel sound. So we would use the word a or a. Okay, or the, sometimes we would use the, but this is really the difference between when do we use an and when do we use a. If we use the, then it has a different meaning. Okay, but the meaning of an and a is the same. It's, you only change it depending on if the noun starts with a vowel or not. But the meaning is the same between an and a. But it's a different meaning between a and an over here and the over here. They have different meanings, which we will look at now. Okay, so we have a and an. One important thing to remember about a and an is that they are only used to talk about one thing. Okay, and the meaning of what it means is any one of many. Okay, we'll look at an example in a minute. And with the word the, we can use the word the to talk about either one thing or more than one thing. Okay, so with a or an, you can only use it to talk about one thing. But with the, you can use it to talk about one thing or more than one thing. Okay, and the difference between a and an is a and an means any one of many, and the we would use when we know what we are talking about. Either we know or we expect the person we're talking to, we think that they know as well. Let's look at some examples before we move on. So here we have something that many of us haven't seen for a few months now. Do you remember these? They're called classrooms. We used to go to them every day and do our learning, do our study. Hopefully it won't be very long before we all come back to these classrooms. I miss them. I miss them. Okay. Anyway, let's get back. A, an, and the. Okay, so imagine we go into the classroom, okay, and I say to you, please sit in a chair. Okay, please sit down in a chair. Or imagine that I said to you, please sit in the chair. Please sit down in the chair. Now, what is the difference? Is there a difference between the two? Please sit in a chair and please sit in the chair. Well, if I said to you, please sit in a chair, you would probably say to me, okay, and you would just maybe sit in the first chair that you saw. But if I said to you, please sit in the chair, you would have to ask me, which chair? Which chair? Which chair do you mean? Why did you say the chair? Because if I said the chair, it means that I know in my brain which chair I want you to sit in. Because A, when we use a or an, it just means one of many. It's not important which one. Please sit in a chair. It doesn't matter which one, just a chair. But if I say please sit in the chair, it means that I know which chair I mean. And because you don't know, I haven't told you, you would have to say, which chair? Which chair do you want me to sit in? Okay, so we could replace the word a with any. Please sit in any chair that you like. Okay, and we could replace the word the with that. Please sit in that chair. I would say that if I was pointing to a chair. Please sit in that chair there. Not any chair. You must sit in that chair there, or the chair. Okay, let's look on again. So a and an. So because we can only use a and an to talk about one thing, we can't use them with nouns that we put an s on the end, because remember, when we put s on the end of a noun, it means more than one. Okay, so we can't say, could you get me a chairs? A chairs. It doesn't make any sense because a means one. Chairs with an s means more than one. Okay, but with the word that, it can be used when we add an s to mean more than one, but it doesn't have to. We can use it to mean one or more than one. So let's go back to the classroom. Okay, if I said to you, we need to move a chairs, would that be correct, or would that be silly? Would that be a silly thing to say? Like, what does that mean? Or what if I said to you, we need to move the chairs? Okay, one of these is correct and one of these is not correct. Which one is not correct? Okay, well, this one here is not correct because we can't use a or an with a noun with s to mean more than one, because a or an only means one. And we need to move the chairs is correct. Okay, you can either say we need to move the chair, one chair, or the chairs, meaning more than one chair. So again, remember, a or an means any one of many. Okay, and the word the, okay, so this is another way that we use the word the. We would always use the word the if there is only one of something. Okay, so a or an means any one of many. But if there is only one of something, then we would always use the. For example, what do we have here? We have a pot of many pencils, but there is only one pen. So we might say, can you pass me a pencil, please? That means there are many pencils. Could you pass me one of many pencils? Any pencil, it doesn't matter. I don't mind. Could you just pass me a pencil? But about the pen, because there's only one pen, we would not say, could you pass me a pen? Because there's only one pen, so we know which pen we're talking about, And if we know which thing or noun we're talking about, then we always use the. Can you pass me the pen, please? Because there's only one pen, so we know which pen we're talking about. So another difference between a and an and the, it's kind of the same, but we'll just look at it in a slightly different way. When we are talking about something, and the first time that we talk about something, the first time we mention it, we would often use a or an, because the person we're talking to, they don't know which thing we're talking about. We'll look at a sentence in a minute. Okay, and then after we've mentioned it, after we've talked about it, we would then, every time we talk about it after then, we would use the word the. Okay, let's use these, let's have a look at some examples. So here we have a little boy, okay, he looks a little bit lost. We have a very helpful policeman. Maybe he's asking the boy, do you want some help? Would you like me to help you? So imagine the boy later, he was writing in his little diary, what happened to him today? He might say, I was lost, so I asked a policeman to help me. And then he might write, the policeman took me to where I should go. Okay, now look at the difference. The first time he talks about the policeman, he says, a policeman. I was lost, so I asked a policeman to help me. But the second time he talks about the policeman, he says, the policeman. Why? Because the first time he talks about the policeman, we don't know which policeman he's talking about, and it kind of doesn't matter. It's not important. We don't need to know the name of the policeman. We don't need to know where he lived. We don't need to know anything about the policeman. We just need to know that he is a policeman. But after we talk about the policeman, now when we talk about him, we know which policeman the boy is talking about. He's talking about the policeman who he asked for help. Okay, so the first time we mention the policeman, we just say a policeman because we don't know which policeman and it's not important. But every time after that, when the boy wants to talk about the policeman, he would say the policeman because it's the policeman who he asked for help. Okay? So the first time we don't know who the policeman is, but every time after that we do know who the policeman is. It's the policeman that the boy talked to ask for help. Okay, so again, like I've said there, which policeman? It's this policeman. Okay, the policeman. Which policeman? This policeman, the one I asked for help. Okay, we also use the and not a or an, or not often a or an, when we talk about musical instruments. So for example, let's look at this one. We have she looks like a very clever lady. She's playing the piano. We have a boy there who's playing the guitar. Okay, so we might say she is playing the piano. We don't often say in English she is playing a piano. Okay, I'm not sure why, but we just don't. It's not very common. We would say she is playing the piano. Or you might ask somebody, can you play any musical instruments? They might say, yes, I can play the piano. So, or I can play the guitar, or he is playing the guitar. So when we talk about musical instruments, we kind of think in our minds, we don't think about the actual piano that we're playing. We just think about it in a kind of more general way. Okay, the piano. Sometimes you will hear people say a piano. I'm going to play a piano. No, we would say the piano. Okay, so musical instruments, it's much more common that we say the and not a or an. We also use the word the when we want to talk about all things of one type of thing. Okay, so for example, in my country, we have a a season that we call autumn, which is a very beautiful season. It's just after summer. It's between summer and winter. And it's when all the leaves, they turn to this beautiful color, like orange, like brown orange color. So we might say the trees are very beautiful at this time of year. Okay, I've made a mistake there. I've written time twice. I've written time 2 times. Oh, maybe that's time 2 times. I've written time 2 times. Okay, never mind. Okay, the trees are beautiful at this time of year, that should say. So because we're talking about all trees or most trees, we're talking about trees in general, we often put the word the in front, okay, the article the, to mean all trees. All trees are beautiful at this time of year. So we'll just finish by asking the question, do all nouns have to have a, an, or the in front of them? No, not all nouns. And the difference is that we don't use a, an, or the. Okay, one difference is when we talk about things in general. So for example, we have a girl here. It looks like she's reading books. So she might say, I love reading books. Now, she's not really talking about a particular book. She's talking about books in general. So you wouldn't hear her say, I love reading the books, or you wouldn't hear her say, I love reading a book, because she's talking about things in general, books, just books in general. Okay, so because there's no a, an, or the there, what she means is, I love reading all types of books, all different types of books. If we were to use the word the, then you might hear her use it in this way. I love reading the books on that shelf. Because now she's not talking about books in general, she's talking about the books on that shelf. Or if she was going to use a or an, or because book doesn't start with a vowel, we would have to only use a. I love reading a book when I have some free time. Okay, I love reading a book when I have some free time. In that case, she's using a to mean one. I love reading one book when I have some free time. Okay, so we could replace the with those in that case, and we could replace a with any. I love reading any book when I have some free time. And also, we don't use a or an to talk about what we call uncountable nouns. Now, we can do a whole lesson on countable and uncountable nouns. But in general, okay, just to give you a quick idea of what we mean by countable and uncountable nouns, it's nouns that we can't count, or nouns that we don't usually count. So a pen is countable. We can count it. 1 pen, 2 pens, 3 pens, 4 pens. Okay, speaker. Speaker here. Okay, we can count speakers. We can have 1 speaker, 2 speakers, 3 speakers. But some nouns we can't count, or we don't count. For example, water. Water, we don't often say the water. We can say the bottle of water, because a bottle is counted. 1 bottle, 2 bottles, 3 bottles. But just water on its own, we say is uncountable. And we know it's uncountable because we can't put an S on the end to mean more than 1 water. What does more than 1 water mean? Doesn't mean anything. It's like rice. More than 1 rice? Not really. You could have more than 1 grain of rice. A grain is a small piece of rice. That's countable, but just rice on its own, or sugar. Okay, we have many nouns in English that are not countable. We don't say rices. We don't say sugars. We don't say waters. We don't say monies. Okay, all of these, if you can't put an S on the end, that means it's not countable. Okay, so we would say, I drink a lot of water. You can't say I drink a lot of the water or I drink a lot of a water because water is not countable. So you don't use any you don't use any word there at all. A and or the, you don't use any word. Right, okay, I think we've come to the end of our lesson now. So same as before, we're going to pop over to quizzes. There should be a link for the quizzes somewhere, I think up there or to the side or down there somewhere. So let's pop over to quizzes now. And here we are in quizzes. Well done if you came with me. Like I said, there should be a link there or down there. Right, you can either play your own game, which would be much more fun, or if you don't want to, you can just watch me play it and see whether I win or not. Okay, so let's have a go. Play quiz. Right, what's the first one? We ate something wonderful meal yesterday. A wonderful meal? Well, it's not an, because there's no vowel. The. We ate the wonderful meal yesterday. Well, we don't really know which meal we're talking about, so I think it's a. We ate a wonderful meal yesterday. Weather at this time of year is so hot. Well, I know that with weather, we never say a weather and we never say an weather. We always say the weather. The weather. Okay, I'm moving up. He is, can't be an because very is not a vowel. He is the very good friend. I think it's this one. He is a very good friend. Okay, got to power up. Time freeze. Okay, what's the next question? There was, I think it's, so we don't really know what accident, so it has to be a accident. It can't be a accident because a is a vowel, so it has to be an. There was an accident. There was an accident. I have 3 shirts, a yellow one, an orange one, and this is a yellow, an orange, and the black one? No, I think it's this one, a black one. Okay, come on, I need to be quicker. Did you get birthday card that I sent you? Well, we know which birthday card he's talking about because it's the one he was sent, so it must be the. Did you get the birthday card that I sent you? You should eat something orange every morning. They're so healthy. You should eat orange, the orange. Oh, orange begins with a vowel, so it's this one, an orange. You should eat an orange every morning. Okay, we have immunity. Question 8. Meal that we ate yesterday was wonderful. Can't be an because it's meal. A meal that we ate yesterday was wonderful. Well, it can't be a because we know which meal we're talking about, the one they ate yesterday, so it must be this one. The meal that we ate yesterday was wonderful. I cannot understand how the student like him can pass his exams. Well, it's student, so it can't be an, so it must be the or a. I cannot understand how. Do you know? Can you help me? I cannot understand how. Well, I think it's one of many students, so it must be a. I can't understand how one of many students, or him, can pass his exams. We went to the zoo and saw... Do we know which elephant? Which elephant did we see? We don't know, so it must be one of many elephants. So it must be a or an. Elephant begins with a vowel, so it's an. Right, number 11. We have a test tomorrow morning. I think this one is, well, it's one, we don't really know which test, so it must be this one. We have a test tomorrow morning. It's not important which test. Okay, activate this one. Okay, you must always tell a truth. I think we all know this one. You must always tell an truth. You must always tell the truth. Always tell the truth. Right, number 13. Did you see blah 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 man I told you about? Oh, well, we know which man because it's the one he talked about, so it must be this one. Did you see the man I told you about? Which shirt do you like? I like, I think maybe there's only one blue one, so it must be the. Which shirt do you like? The blue one. Excellent. Right, okay, brilliant. Let's just come back here. So well done, everybody. I hope you all had fun today, learning all about a, an, and the. Like I often say, sometimes when you learn English, you might think, oh, but how will I always remember? Is it a vowel? Is it not a vowel? Is it one of many? How do I think these things before I speak? It must take a long time to speak because I have to remember so many things. Okay, remember, I often say to my students, the more you practice in English, we say practice makes perfect, okay? You will find that because your brain is much more clever than you think it is, your brain will often do all of the work for you. If you practice, the more you practice, the more your brain will do the work for you, okay? And I can show that is true. I can prove to you that that is true, because if you think about your own language of Khmer, now all languages, even English and Khmer and Spanish and French and German and Indian, okay? All languages, they all have rules. They all have the same or similar rules to English. And Khmer as well. Khmer has rules as well. But do you think about the rules of Khmer when you speak? Do you know what the rules of Khmer are? You probably don't. Maybe you do, but I think you probably don't know the rules of Khmer. That's because your brain knows the rules for you. Because you speak Khmer all the time, you don't have to think, how do I say this sentence in Khmer? Do I put the noun first or the verb first, or do I do this? No, you don't have to think about that at all. Your brain, your very clever brain, does all of the work for you. And it's the same with English, okay? The more you practice, even though when you learn English, it can seem like it's really difficult and lots of rules and things to remember, and oh, how are you going to remember everything? Really, the secret is just practice, practice, practice. Okay, and eventually after you practice a lot, if you listen to a lot of English, if you speak a lot of English with your friends, if you read a lot of English, if you practice your writing a lot, okay, your pronunciation, over time, it does take a little bit of time, but your brain will start to do all of the hard work for you, and you won't have to think about it in the same way that you don't have to think about when you speak Khmer. Okay, so well done, everybody. I hope you all had fun today, and that's the end of our Facebook Live lessons for this week. Join us again next week for another very exciting Facebook Live English lesson with me, Teacher Wayne. Okay, but for today, bye-bye, everybody. Take care. Stay safe. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.